It really helps to use this concept of altitude when you're trying to figure out how different cross-functional teams or different business units can collaborate. What is altitude and why is it important? Altitude is a reference to how high or low you are in relation to the topic you're studying. So if you're deep in the details, have developed a specialist language, have a narrow focused field of view, you usually have a low altitude. While if you're trying to generalize, look across different subject areas and trying to figure out what all of these have in common, you usually go up and get a high altitude. So why is this important? Well, because it really helps to use this concept of altitude when you're trying to figure out how different cross-functional teams or different business units can collaborate. Raising the altitude helps you see a broader set of opportunities for where these different teams you're working with have something in common. So let me try to explain with an example. So a few years ago, we worked with these 8 different teams. They were all marketing the same product, but they were serving different types of indications. So an indication means that the product could be used for different areas of the human body, and then each of these areas, of course, have a deep specialization, and so each area has a different team. Now, what we were asked to do was to figure out if, how, and where these teams had something in common. And the way we did that was to use systems thinking and this concept of altitude. So as you can see, the first thing we did, now these are fogged up on purpose, the first thing we did was that we mapped each individual team. Now, the reason we did that was to make sure we could understand each individual team thoroughly, and also that each individual team felt that they were being thoroughly represented. So we used their strategy as a starting point. We used that to map out the environment that had an influence on their strategy. So we were figuring out what are the relationships and what are the elements and forces that has a positive or negative influence on what we're trying to achieve for each individual team. We worked with these teams in order to get that data and present it back to them, and they all agreed. But our job was not to present 8 different types of maps. That was kind of the opposite of what we were trying to achieve. Our goal was to try to get all of these maps into one map. Now, could we do that? And so we had to do 2 different things in order to get that done. The first thing was that we needed to remove specialist language, because all of these indications have different specialists who specialize in the different areas of the body, clearly. And so, but if you look at them, you can all see that they're kind of doing the same thing. They're just doing it on different parts of the body. They're all medical professionals. They all have specializations. They all meet with patients. They're all treaters, and they're all decision makers. So we decided to remove the specialist language and call them something like, we call them treaters or something similar. So now suddenly you have these 8 different areas of expertise, and they're using the same language. Now, the second thing we needed to do was to figure out where do they have something in common. At which altitude can we put ourselves in order to make sure that there's an opportunity to see the commonalities as best possible. And we found that the patient was the best altitude. Because even if patients go into the system with different hurts in different areas of the body, they all go into the system into the same type of process. They all kind of have the same mental and physical pains or challenges. They all meet the same system and meet kind of different areas of specialization, but it's all kind of a similar type of experience. And so we raised the altitude to the patient level, and we started to kind of move our maps over into that altitude, removing all the specialist language and areas of specialization. And so what we found was kind of this map. And also this is fogged up so you can't really see it, but you get the kind of the visualization, you get the idea. We brought this map back. So this is a map that where each of these nodes, these bubbles, is a force of influence. And the lines between them is what are they influencing and how are they influencing? What's the relationship between the different nodes? We went back to these teams and we asked them, is this a map of what your environment looks like? And all of them agreed. Like all of the 8 teams agreed, yes, this is my map. Now the last thing we did is that we gave them all different colors, colored dots, as you can see. And we asked them to put a colored dot on every area of their environment that was important to them. And as you can see, they started mapping out and putting their colors on the map. And now you can clearly see the areas where these teams have an opportunity to collaborate and where they can't collaborate. Because the purpose of Altitude is not to remove or ignore specialization, is to find out where do we have something in common and where don't we have something in common? Where do we need to be different? And so Altitude really helps you kind of work with different teams to find out how they can collaborate and where they can collaborate. And it helps to kind of protect the specialization at the same time that everyone agrees on raising the altitude in order to find these areas of improvement and collaboration. So I hope that was interesting and helpful, and thank you.